shake, rattle, and troll.
It's time for the award-winning Shake, Rattle, and Troll.
Yeah, here's to everybody. Grab your favorite pose. Me and the boys gonna shake.
A show for the serious fishermen as well as the novice looking for tips from the pros.
Got the power, we got the speed. We're running wide open on a midsummer breeze. Fresh water, salt water, watch out, boys. Bass Daddy Don's gonna make some noise. It's me and the boys gonna shake, rattle, and
Now, here's your host, saltwater fisherman, the man that fears no fish, Bass Daddy and Tournament Pro, Don McDowell.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm Don McDowell. Welcome to Shake, Rattle, and Troll this morning. Thanks for listening. We've got an awful lot of stuff to cover today. In the house with me, as always, my wingman, the man who speaks to elk.
Morning, Best Daddy.
JK, what's happening, my friend?
Same old, same old. It's going to be an interesting close to the year. We had our conversation with the Arizona Republic. They'll be publishing their story in January regarding the wild horse and burro situation, so we will be prominent in that article.
Oh, wait. I had nothing to do with it. What is this
wheat stuff? Yeah.
Wheat.
I'm
going to be targeted by guilt by association.
Probably.
Perfect.
You ate some of that horse meat.
And I loved every bite.
I did too.
We have a special guest today. Rumor has it there is a gorilla loose in Congress, and it's Paul Gosar in the house, fresh from the hill. Welcome back to the desert.
Oh, it feels great. Getting on that plane, getting here yesterday morning, it was great.
I have to ask you, before we get started, I want to cover a lot of stuff. You've been a busy guy, and God love you for doing what you do. We've got a couple of guys in Washington that we can count on. You and Jason, our buddy Jason from Utah, Jason Shavitz, are just absolutely tearing up the floor.
Well, we're trying, and you got to make things work when you got the chance, Don. So, you got to keep those bureaucrats on their toes.
Well, just for general information, what's the attitude of Congress and the Senate now that we have a president-elect called DJ Trump?
Well, I think it's really shaking it up. I was one of the group that wanted to do a little bit more, Don. Setting up the table to make a big run next year. But leadership didn't want to do that. They wanted to go out kind of like a quiet whisper instead of really tearing some stuff up. A couple of good bills. I mean, the water bill definitely helps out in California. There's some problems with it though when you're starting to look at paying infrastructures for despondent areas that misuse their monies. But from that standpoint, people are excited for next year. They're like ready to rock and roll, and we go back early and get to work.
Yeah, man. Cabinet picks. What's your comfort level thus far?
I love them so far. I don't know the interior, but boy, I like his EPA picks. I like them all. Here's a gentleman who's been very respectful. He's been very deliberative.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very hard looking at these picks and saying, hey, listen, he hasn't done his homework.
I have a question for you because I had many conversations with Congressman Salmon over the last 4 years. And one of the things he indicated was a high level of frustration because bills that were created by the House never left the House, meaning that the Senate would never hear them. Harry Reid was infamous for locking them up and never letting them see the light of day. There's got to be a frustration level when you work hard to create a bill and it never goes anywhere. And that was one of the things that tore him up a bunch. I know that. How are you handling that kind of stuff?
Well, I think there's a different way that you could have softened that up. There are bills that are actually veto proof, and you should have run them one by one early last year or earlier in the session. And put them on the president's desk and dare him to veto. You have to set. It's called strategy. It's something I don't see a lot of back there.
No, it was my next question.
You need to know where you're going from A to B to eventually get to Z.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that could happen. Then there's other more aggressive tones. Like lawsuits that bypass the Senate.
Correct.
That utilizing the Anti-Deficiency Act and its violations. The power of the purse is something that starts with the House, and it's not being given to you. You got to take it back. And so there's a frustration, but I think that there's ways that we can get around that. And I think that is getting bills that can pass, move them forward. Start building that energy. Start building that collaboration with the American public. Show them why you're doing the things, include them, and then just hammer the Senate. Actually hammer the Senate with the public, and belittle them to the point where they've got to jump on board.
Do you see that now that we have a majority in both the House and the Senate, as well as the executive level, that things will flow a little smoother now?
Well, I would hope so. We're only a 52-48 after the win yesterday in Louisiana in the Senate, so a smaller majority. But you also have, coming up in 2018, you have 24 of the over 30 slots in the Senate up for re-election are Democrats, and over 10 of them are in areas endangered that Trump took. So, once again, know the parameters in which you play. You don't have to go very far to understand that. Utilize the Sun Tzu, the art of war's tactics. Understand your strengths and weaknesses, but also know your enemies.
And hold them close.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And as we say in the House is, you can get along with everybody, but the enemy is always the Senate.
Yeah, perfect.
Well done. Well stated.
Well, a couple of things. We owe you a big congratulations on becoming chairman of the Western Caucus. That's going to be pretty interesting. We're really depending on a lot of good information coming out of the Western Caucus moving into 2017. Congratulations.
Don, thank you. One of the things that we've been good at when we made our audition for the chairman, our pitch, people didn't realize that we had passed 6 bills and over 70 amendments in just the last 2.5 years. And we've had freshmen and sophomores and some upperclassmen saying, listen, how do you get this done? Would you teach us? So one of the things we're going to espouse, and as you know, west of the Mississippi, we have fewer votes than those east of the Mississippi. We got to teach about why it's so important on the things we hold dear. So what we're going to do is we're going to spread our ideas and get some other people involved, that take the issue. When you look at Mark Amadei, public lands, he's been instrumental in the sage grouse. Scott Tipton up there as well as water. So one of those things we're going to try to do is get them out in front of the public, get them to understand who their groups are supporting them, and really start moving these bills fast and methodically through Congress.
Do you see that the East Coast, I know there's always a bias, but I don't think the East Coast, anybody east of the Mississippi, understands the complexities of living in the West, and they have this fantasy version. If the East Coast, anytime they found any artifacts or Native American sheds or any of those things, the small parcels that they do, if they locked out everybody for 12 square miles, if they found an arrowhead or if they found a pottery shard, nothing would ever get done.
Right.
And I think they have to realize that while there's a balance between respectful of what has been in the past versus the idea of trying to move forward with development and specifically jobs out here in energy, jobs out here and everything else that we're talking about, as well as the rural lifestyle. Cattle ranchers were never abused until the last 20 years. Now they're getting hammered all the time as being on the public trough all the time. And it's not right. They're calling them welfare ranchers, and that's not true.
Well, and that's why one of the things I first did as soon as I was elected, I went up to the Speaker, Ryan, and said, listen, I'm making a formal invitation to you. Come out to walk a mile in our moccasins. Come out to Arizona. And he said, well, I've never been to the Grand Canyon. And I said, well, I'll get you once of a lifetime trip with the Grand Canyon. Even my kids, absolutely. I want them to walk those same aspects. Then his next comment was, well, we really want to see the border. Well, I'll make sure that you see that border.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one of the things is start bringing, when he's the attraction to come here, let's start bringing other members of Congress, which we did 2 years ago, and their chief of staffs.
So Ryan's never been here?
Well, he hasn't seen the Grand Canyon. He's been to Arizona, but never seen the Grand Canyon.
So he's never been to the border.
This is the gift that we've been given. So, don't recreate the wheel. Bring them here. Teach them about that aspect.
Sure.
And if the speaker comes, boy, there's a lot of members that want to come. And we can show them water. We can show public lands. We can show them the forest. We can show them, wildlife. How do we take care of that? And when they imprint it visually, they have it.
Yes.
And then they become an associate or a helper instead of an obstinate blocker.
We had that in the third grade. It's called show and tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back.
All right. Hey, we've got to pay some bills. I'm Don McDowell.
Special K.
Paul Gosar.
And we have DQD from downtown St. George, Utah in the house, taking us into cyberspace. I'm Don McDowell. We'll be right back, folks.
If I had my that makes it nice.
All right, we're back. Friend Paul Gosar, Congressional District Number 4 from Arizona, but don't let that be a misconception. Paul Gosar works for every Arizonan, regardless of what district you may be in, and thank you for all your good work. Let's talk a little bit about the Western Caucus. You've got 54 members.
Mm-hmm.
This past year, I was involved with 12 of those members. Nice folks. They seem to, get what's going on out here. We've been talking about sage grouse, EPA, EAJA, some stuff on the southern border. What's your focus for Western Caucus moving into 17 on let's talk about sage grouse, one of my favorite topics.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, as you know, some of this planning in which the environmental groups, the Interior, have looked at is trying to take off a lot of land off of the marketplace for access. So one of the aspects that we had is, as you know, Don, and you were one of those people trying to champion it, was trying to include some of those riders in the National Defense Authorization Act. And sadly was not included. Unfortunately, our senior senator, Senator McCain, did not think that he could actually pass that bill without that. And you got to be bold. I mean, especially.
Yeah, I'm not quite tracking on that with the, I think we had about 75 million acres roughly contained in 7 military bases, bombing ranges, training ranges, that kind of thing that, in my opinion, would affect military readiness.
And it actually does. But one of the things is that the business of the Senate has gone its way, where you're mitigating and mediating what you think you possibly can pass instead of putting something on the table and making some senators vote.
Yeah.
That's that strategy, Don, we get back to that I'm sick and tired of.
Is it going to be attached to omnibus?
Well, no, it didn't get to either one of those. The CR passed last Thursday. And so it's not attached. And so once again, we're back to square one again, starting in the new Congress, where we have to get something done. We tried, one of the thoughts that we had was to reiterate, by reiterating the Sykes Act, the true intention of what the Sykes Act actually did to give us some jurisdiction, but not even that was included.
Wow.
So one of those things from that standpoint, we've got to be better at this.
Congressman, can't you, and this is neophyte logic here, so play along with me. Why can't Congress create a bill that simply says you cannot declare the sage grouse as an endangered species because of all the efforts that have been put forward and because of it affecting military readiness, and then send it to the Senate?
Well, I mean, you certainly could, but once again, here we got this leadership that, as we talked about earlier, that, Paul Ryan is from the East. He doesn't get our issues, and they have their own agenda items. And
he needs to hunt more.
Yeah, well, he loves hunting. He's a big bow hunter, and he likes coming out here. But you have to understand our issues more prominently. And with fewer votes, we have a smaller voice. So we have to be, since I came into Congress in 2010, we've been screaming for smaller bills, germane applications. But there's another way, and that is the power of the purse. So they don't get it back there. And the fact that Congress has to authorize a bill or a statute, a law, and then fund it before agencies can spend it. I've been screaming about this. This is the case in which that we actually have sitting on his desk, the Speaker's desk. And basically it says that all we have to do is find that violation, and there's plenty of them to go around, but the most gifted one is already on the table. It takes a simple majority in the House, don't need the Senate, goes directly to the Supreme Court for a ruling.
Really?
Oh, absolutely, because one of the things that if you're willing to, and on a moment's notice, there's people that show up at meetings. And one such meeting was with Anton Scalia.
Okay.
And Anton Scalia kept saying, you want the Supreme Court to do your job. Isn't it time that Congress start doing its job and setting the table?
Well,
here's the thing.
So they're basically telling you, create the laws and bring them to us.
That's that's actually part of the constitutional law
approach.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I was after was setting the precedent. Let's play this out smart instead of being dumb about it.
Yeah, we're reactive instead of assertive.
Absolutely. And we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So my thought was once you find that case, take that case, put it on the floor. Okay, and I'll tell you about it here in just a minute. Take it to the Supreme Court, win it, and then go to the American public and say, listen, we just now showed you how you can find unauthorized spending. We need your help, and here's what's in it for you. If you find it and it becomes a reality, you get a finder's fee of 10 to 30% of what you find. Oh, I'm ready to storm
Serious?
the budget. It's absolutely serious.
I'll be on the hunt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I got your interest. And what happens is you're taking the mountain with all the ants from across the constituencies across the country to the point where the agencies say, hey, back off. What's it going to take for them to back off? A moratorium. No more rules and regulations until we figure out which ones actually are germane and actually are vetted by Congress and those that have jurisdiction and not. Isn't that simple? I mean, because that's the whole process of this, is that the executive branch can't spend dollars unless Congress has allocated the law and funded it. We've been getting this is madness when you see what's transpiring back there.
Did you know all this before you went in?
No, I mean,
No.
It's interesting when you actually read stuff.
Yeah.
And in our office, we actually read bills.
So you have basically a few people who are constitutionalists who are reading for you.
We
gave
do
you
all
this
of it.
interpretation.
I read nonstop. That's one of the things at our office is actually really good. And you start investigating aspects. The thing that I'm just quoting you is called the Anti-Deficiency Act. It was brought about in the late 1800s because what ends up happening, the military entered into contracts after they had spent all their money and entered into contracts behooving that the federal government had to pay them. So Congress slapped them down and said, listen, no.
Can't do that.
Congress has to pass the law and then fund that law specifically, otherwise
and
you
then
can't
you can
spend
go
it.
spend it.
So I'll give you the example. So in Article 1, Section 8 powers, immigration is solely the purview of Congress. Solely. It's not the executive branches. So the president has every right to do an executive order, and he did so with immigration. But it means nothing because Congress
won't fund it.
It's not funded, and there's no law in the books from Congress. So it would just be a piece of paper. So how did he actually process over 108,000 people since the end of last May? He misused funding. He used the agencies like DOJ and Homeland Security and the State Department to move these people through where Congress never gave them that jurisdiction. So that's a total violation. Now, everybody points to, well, Donald Trump will stop that executive action. The problem is now you've got a class of people back here that are sitting that have been victims based upon the prowess of the president and of Congress. If we do it my way, take it to the Supreme Court, and they actually buy off on it, and there's plenty of constitutional attorneys that buy off on what I'm talking about, and they think this is an 8-0 ruling in my favor, there is no class. It never existed.
Really?
Yeah, it never existed whatsoever. But think about this. Not only just in immigration, and I'm utilizing it as my test case because Article 1, Section 8 is clear on that definition. Expand it to the waters of the U.S., would take it to the Clean Power Rule, the Ozone Rule, look in the Fish and Wildlife Services. You would have to have germaneness coming back to Congress before you could implement any of that stuff.
Wow.
I mean, so here's the power of the purse, which is so important.
Congressman, you've said the power of the purse probably the last 3 times we've met together.
Mm-hmm.
This time it makes sense in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. You literally nothing should pass through without your financial approval.
Absolutely.
That's how you retain control.
That's why the budget was an every year ordeal where you dictated where the money went specifically.
Exactly.
And since Roosevelt, we've been delegating that away.
But
and Congress has been allowing it.
The problem, Congressman, is that most Americans don't understand this.
Have no clue.
But
clue.
But here's our deal. This is our teaching moment. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's why I brought up the finder's fee. That's actually in law. So what's in it for me? Well, if I find $30 billion of unauthorized funding and it goes through, man, I get a 10 to 30%. Woo!
Nice.
Now I got everybody's interest.
10% of $30 million, I know, is $3 million.
Yeah. So here's my process is that, the government is we the people. So if we turn the people back onto the preliminary aspect of the budget, think of how much more we can accomplish.
But that does that puts it back in the people's power.
Absolutely. Brings it back home.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's incredible.
What a concept.
And none of us know it.
Well, and that's why we've gone out to try to explain it to people over and over again. And so we actually have a bill. We've actually drafted it. I went and talked to the speaker, and I said, okay, Mr. Speaker, you can take this bill. I mean, you as the speaker have the authority to maintain the proudness of the Congress. If you're not, I'm going to bring a privilege motion coming in there in early New Year.
Oh, it's getting hot in here.
Yeah, boy. All right. Sounds like 2017 is going to be pivotal again.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hey, we're going to flip into a break. When we come back more with the Congressman, we're going to switch gears, go to San Diego, see if the Malahini's running, and we'll be back.
The preacher man says it's the end of time, and the Mississippi River, she's a gold dry.
All righty, we're back. We're going to forego the fishing report from downtown San Diego. The weather's been pretty decent. A lot of the big boats aren't running. The 150-pound class tuna are still thrashing around, and I mean thrashing around on the Tanner Bank. So I checked it yesterday. There was about an 11-knot breeze. Waves were 3.4, 11-second intervals. Really smooth, J.K. Even you can do it.
They tease me a lot. I can't swim. I do get seasick.
That's why we came up with J.K. on a rope.
J.K. on her rope.
We gave him some floaties and a rope.
It's bad. It's bad. But that's okay. Put me in the woods and I'm fine. I can stay in the mountains all year long.
That's exactly right.
Nothing's going to bother me.
That's your
Well,
forte.
then it evolves to J.K. in a tree.
J.K. in a tree.
Listen, you guys have got a standing invitation talking about fishing. You get the speaker. We get finished here in Arizona. We'll go put him on a boat over there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd get a kick out of you getting bent over the rail, getting clobbered by a yellowtail or a bluefin.
I don't know. I have never been away from the banks.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know what I would do.
You and I should go as
okay,
a team.
we got another one. Gosar on a rope.
It might be Gosar on a rope too. The trolling buddies.
I think you better take the congressman hunting.
Oh, he'd have fun with me.
Oh, I love hunting. You just do this job, you just don't get to do much of it.
No,
look,
he won't.
This is the Hook and Bullet Hunting Club right here. Okay.
Truly is.
All right, let me ask one more question about sage grouse, and we'll move beyond that. DOI looked at a lot of the individuals. There was, I think, 11 state plans for conservation and management of the sage grouse. Apparently, Wyoming made a deal with the devil, got their state plan blessed. DOI has agreed not to list the bird. It doesn't warrant it as late as 2015, I think, 2014, 15, whatever. Since a precedent has been set with DOI, why does this have to be legislated? Why doesn't DOI bless the plans? They've already agreed not to list the bird and put the states in management of the bird. Seems to me like that's elementary. The whole thing goes away.
Well, it should be, Don, but that's our problem is that they have decided on their own, whether it be the Fish and Wildlife Service in cahoots with DOI, to change their mind anytime and every time. We see this.
But they've set a precedent.
It doesn't matter to them.
Okay.
It does not matter to them one iota. I mean, you look at the wolf plan. I mean, the Mexican gray wolf. The federal overseas is ridiculous. In fact, if we continue on that pathway, that wolf doesn't have a chance. That's why Steve Pierce and I actually relegated it in an appropriations rider to move it back to the states.
Wisconsin had a bill to delist the gray wolf in Wisconsin. Yep. Did that have any traction?
Oh, it did. But then when you start bringing in others, I'm from Wyoming originally. So when you have the introduction of some of the hybrid wolves that were in there, then they had natural populations. You went through a court battle, Don, showing and listening. That's exactly right. You reintroduced non-native species into here, but that doesn't matter. The science doesn't make sense.
Well, they're saying it doesn't matter if it was not historical range as long as it's suitable habitat is the new buzzword.
Oh, absolutely. And that I keep bringing back the gray wolf aspect because the gray wolf never was in Colorado or Utah. Now they're setting the stage. They're setting that stage.
Setting the dinner table.
Oh, absolutely. So that's the point that I'm talking about is that the federal government does what it wants to, where it wants to, when it has no reins by Congress.
Okay, we're about to have a new Secretary of
Interior.
DOI, Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers. Any thoughts on that?
She's a Westerner, from Washington State.
She hunt and shoot?
She's a farmer. Yep, she does.
Good. Okay.
So at least to my knowledge, I do. I can't speak. I don't know her as well. But she's worked her way up as a family farmer up in that area. So she's got the roots in that understanding. Whether she understands all of that, I don't know. But it's nice to have a Westerner.
We met with her on the sage-grouse issue, and my opinion is she understood. She got it.
Yeah.
Everybody did. We had 117 Republicans and a whole bunch of rural Democrats that signed on to the initiative.
Oh, absolutely. But once again, you have to have leadership and people in that conference committee that are not going to be beholding to anybody. They're going to do what's right and make sure that when that conference report comes out, it contains things that are viable and things that should be passed. What
can we do here as sportsmen in the Western states, not just Arizona, but we're collaborating with Stewart and Bishop and some of the folks up in Utah, Colorado, and the other northern states. What can we do to interact with the Western Caucus to help whatever it is you're doing? Well, I mean, we said it early, walk a mile in my moccasins. Exactly. And one of the things that I've said over and over again, when you hand people, a thesis paper, very few people are going to read that thesis paper on that aspect. So what you got to do is you got to draw them into your issue. So I've been very captivated by building a trailer of the issue. Something short, 3 minutes, that's really snappy, that catches people's attentions. That's provocative, because picture's worth 1,000 words. Absolutely. And so that's the first way that you draw people into the discovery of what your issue is, and they should be part of that. But once you got them hooked, now you can start making sense of the science. You don't pick and choose. Let the science tell you exactly what you're going to do, and be able to replicate it. So that's the biggest key is draw people into our Western Caucus. Help us in regards to building that inventory of videos. Young kids. One of the things that we found out about, and this was kind of captivated me, is that in order to use some of the hotspots in some of the areas, you have to look at certain videos, and you only get credit by watching them once. Well, what they were finding is that the kids are going back and rewatching the videos, even though they didn't get credit, because they were learning. Yes. And so I tell people, I say, go, take your a young person, your kid, whether they be in high school, junior high, or high school, and go to a movie you don't want to go to, and go watch what those kids look at, what they find captivating. Don't watch the movie, watch them watch the movie, and you're going to start finding out how you get back into those heads of kids to reteach. I did it with my son. What an interesting concept. Yeah, we actually built a video, and actually Tom Van Flyne, my chief of staff, did, and it was about the Constitution. No words, just every 10 seconds flashing of different symbols with some kind of provocative music. I gave it to my son. My son watched it like 10 times, and he goes, "Dad, you got to tell me what this is all about." I said, "Oh, it's about the Constitution." You know that kids read the Federalist Papers? Oh, really? Oh, absolutely. He got drawn into it because he was captivated by what it is. And he's a bigger hit than I am. So when I'm going into to murky territory, I bring Gaston. And Gaston becomes my ambassador.
Okay, I have another question there. If you look at all of the, I'll call them envirolitigants. Mm-hmm. They're slick. They have mastered the YouTube videos. They've also funded very heavily the great lies regarding how beneficial the Wolf program has been. and they all, I mean, it's their perspective.
Yeah.
And it's wrong.
Right.
However, we've never had anybody do our side.
Right.
Except for the one gentleman who did one video and it never made it as far. But we're not
J.D. King, you're talking about
King.
Yeah.
You're not seeing the National Geographics pointing out the devastation because it's not culturally acceptable.
They
to
propagated,
that liberal.
J.K.
I know. That's my problem is that we're facing an onslaught of the media that wants to have the wolves because they are what they are and they don't want us on the land. How do we combat that?
Well, we got to put our side out there. That's the key. Okay, so when you're going to take on these equal access to justice litigants, first of all, you got to know what you're actually what they're gaining. So the sue and settle, we're not even privy as members of Congress.
No, you're not,
Congressman. You've been touching on that since we started.
Absolutely,
they're following the money trail.
Absolutely. So my point is, if it's good for them, it's good for us. And so for Congress, I can hardly wait when Mr. Sessions is appointed to say, listen, we need the information to be able to have our due say. And if it's good for them, what's good for us. And so if they're going to continue down that pathway of equal access to justice, then it's good for us too.
Yes.
Okay, so it behooves us to actually make our case. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to be that person to facilitate building the case in 1,000 different cases. To say, okay, listen, if you think you're going to take me, I'm going to overwhelm you. Because I'm going to come with there's not going to be just Paul Gosar. There's going to be Paul Gosar, Chris Stewart, and Mark Amadei, and Scotty Tipton, and Kristi Noem. Everybody with their issues storming the castle. Now take me on.
Yeah.
Nice. The last time I looked, teams always beat individuals. Okay? So my thing is you always step back. Look, and that's why I keep bringing up the Articles of War by Sun Tzu, is that if you follow the principles, you'll never lose, whether it be a war, an adversary, or an issue. Step back, see how they're playing the game. Make sure that you're utilizing the game to your benefits.
Don and I were talking about that last night. It's not about necessarily winning the battle. It's about winning the war.
There you go.
Exactly.
And that's what the Democrats have done over the last 150, 200 years. So to reverse that, I've said this to Don before, we got to play that game.
Well, and I would also tell you, it's not just Democrats.
You're right. You're right. I agree with that.
Well, we're our own worst enemy, sportsmen.
Yeah.
We raise millions and millions and millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of hours putting it on the ground, but we won't go to court.
Well, and here's the deal. The last thing I will leave you with is I look in the mirror and the enemy is me.
Bingo. All right, that's it from Winston Churchill. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Don't go away. More of Shake, Rattle, and Troll is coming up.
Thanks for calling Grand Avenue Mini Storage. We are located at 3636 West Grand Avenue. We have units ranging from 4 foot by 4 foot all the way up to a 20 by 20. Yes, sir. I do think the 4 foot by 4 foot will hold all of your IRS crashed hard drives. No, sir. I don't think the 20 by 20 will hold all the people the White House has thrown under the bus, but do have room for that bus. Grand Avenue Mini Storage. Call us at 602-246-0680. 602-246-0680.
It's called Relentless for a reason. Captain Mike Franchek is continually on the hunt, and he persists to put you on the best fish possible. Relentless is a premier 60-foot sport fishing vessel, equipped for your comfort, and all the latest electronics to locate and target your fish. Relentless is perfect for your group of 14 to 18 anglers. 5 staterooms that sleep 3, 9 open berths, lots of galley seating, 2 heads and hot showers with satellite phones and direct TV. Forget the TV. You'll be catching. The fishing season is on. Book your trip with Captain Mike on the Relentless. Don't compromise in your quest. Be relentless. Book online at hmlanding.com or 619-222-1144. Book it and get bent. Relentless Sport Fishing. 619-222-1144. 1144. Or visit hmlanding.com. Relentless Sport Fishing. 619-222-1144.
Ever heard the phrase, don't move a muscle? Now it's the law. Well, it's the prime boating season, and the Arizona Game and Fish Department reminds everyone that invasive quagga mussels can attach themselves to your boat, and you can spread them to other waters if you don't take certain precautions. If you're boating at Havasu, Pleasant, Mojave, or Meade, help stop the spread of these destructive mussels by pulling your plug and cleaning, draining, and drying your entire boat after each outing. It's not only the law, it's the right thing to do. Visit azgfd.gov for more information.
First impressions happen only once. I'm Susan Hoffman, owner of the New Chameleon Salon. Let me create the hair design and style to make your first impressions last. Our new location is located at 2334 North Scottsdale Road, Suite A126 in Scottsdale Oak Plaza Shopping Center, just north of Oak and Scottsdale Road. Let me create the best first impression you've ever had. I'm Susan Hoffman at the New Chameleon Salon in Scottsdale.
This segment of Shake, Rattle, and Troll is brought to you by Gun Protect. Total corrosion protection for your weapons and ammo at the molecular level. For more information, visit mygunprotect.com.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there.
All righty, we're back. Boy, what an educational session we're having.
Well, one of the things, my son toured Europe, 10 years ago on a summer. He went to hostels and he visited all throughout, Europe. And he came back and he said, Dad, we are the dumbest country in the world. He said, I was amazed at how much more people in other countries know about our system of government and who our leaders are than we do. And he said it was embarrassing.
You make a great point. Talk to somebody that's coming to this country legally, and what they have to learn is incredible. And it's fascinating. There was a reason why you wanted to follow the law to come into this country legally, because you were vested.
Yes.
You understood about becoming part of that culture, bringing your culture, but to be part of the American heritage and culture.
It's no longer part of the culture.
No,
it's no longer assimilation.
It's
It's about finances.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about going back to Detroit?
I have to fly back next week. And I, grew up there as a kid. And I have seen what has happened to places like Dearborn, Michigan, where it is
Sharia law,
total Sharia law now. And it's for me, it's a depressing thing. I talk to people there, and my brother goes, we don't just don't go through Dearborn. It's like, okay, you've allowed access to that to be denied to regular people because it is such a closed community.
I keep bringing this point up over and over again. Mr. Trump was onto something, and that is tell me what part of Sharia law is consistent with the Constitution.
None of it.
None of it. Absolutely none of it. And freedom of religion means that you only have that unless you're debilitating somebody else's right.
Correct.
And how do you justify women, gays
being subjugated?
Absolutely, children. I mean, you can't do that.
No.
And so from that standpoint, we got a horrible problem. But the mismanagement of the Detroit for years and years and years, and that
Chicago's deplorable.
Oh well,
Detroit's worse though.
Look at the death that's going on. But I mean. Listen, folks, you have lots of these cities that are going to be coming to the federal government for bailouts.
Sure they are.
California, almost every big city is in that aspect. Chicago.
Well, look, they've become a sanctuary state.
Oh, yeah. You remember
Can you propose building a wall on the Arizona-California border?
You know what? There was something going on, Don, because they wanted to secede from the nation. I think we should have allowed the Oregon, Washington, California to secede. I mean,
with our blessings.
Oh, yeah. How long is it going to be before they're knocking on our door saying, help us, help us, help us?
They're already broke.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you look at almost every big city there, they can't pay their pensions.
Exactly.
They're underfunded.
New York is the same way.
Yeah. Chicago. I mean, so from that standpoint, I mean, sometimes just, let them hang themselves.
That's an interesting concept. Well, right now that's at everybody else's expense.
That's true, and you're looking at soon to be $21 trillion in debt, and we still don't get this, But getting back to Mr. Trump, he understands that the only way that we get out of this is by getting our economy moving again. Exactly. And when you look, going back to your question about his picks, finance, commerce, these are people that aren't reinventing the wheel. These guys got their wheels spinning loudly, fastly, and purring.
Any thoughts on Tillerson on Secretary of State?
I don't know what's going to go on there.
Unofficially, that's what's leaked out with John Bolton as Deputy Secretary.
Yep. One of the things that I think he's doing is that I think once he names that Secretary of State, no one pays attention anymore. So I think he keeps that to the very last.
He's playing the game, isn't he?
Well, he understands marketing. He's a businessman.
But it's smart.
It's really smart.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then if I were him and if I was a betting man, I would bet you that what he does as soon as he's sworn into office, he puts out his Supreme Court nominee. And you know why?
Oh, yeah.
Because then everybody else goes through the casework very, very fast, and they'll start hammering that.
It's a military
nominee.
tactic.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, here's your attack point. You throw them a diversion over here, and they go get it. They go get the cookie.
Well, you know what? Barack Obama was really good about that.
Oh man.
Watch the shiny mirror.
He's doing it right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's doing it with the Russians hacking the... And I'm trying to... Doug and I were talking about that last night. Okay. Here's the distraction. What are we supposed to be looking for?
Yeah.
What's he up to?
Oh,
I don't know.
No, but I'll tell you what, he's got lots of things going on. The late night rule making is fast pace. Wait till you haven't seen anything yet.
Any thoughts on monuments?
I think he's going to take the Grand Canyon. And he may not stop there.
Well, I just read that there's a chance that may not happen.
Well,
that consider the source. That was Flake and McCain and McCain and Flake.
Exactly.
I will tell you, I would be surprised if he didn't. Very surprised if he didn't.
Let's hope we're surprised.
And the reason being is that we've never had one rescinded.
No.
And so it would put the impetus back on Mr. Trump. And that comes back to my aspects is there's so much stuff that has gone astray that we need to orchestrate those things that Congress can take and get rid of, those that he can do by executive order, and those that we can do by legislation or by the power of the purse.
It would be wonderful if Congress agreed with President Obama that this area needed to be protected, but it's not. No. And it's an individual making a decision on between Bears Ears and the Grand Canyon, 4 million acres. That was not the setup or design for the Antiquities Act.
No, but so you go back to previous presidents, Clinton, Escalante, the staircase, George Bush. I mean, so we've allowed this to occur under this watch, because as orchestrated, it was, 1,000 of acres, just to maintain it. We have a bill in Congress that says, hey, listen, you can only take X amount away, less than 10,000 acres. And you have to have consent from the people of the state governed that it's going to be applied in. Imagine that.
Should that just be a congressional decision and get rid of the Antiquities Act?
I actually agree, but I think that sometimes what ends up happening is that you have to devolve yourself away from that, because I don't think you just let it go away. I mean, if you say we're going to rescind it, I just don't think you get it done. But if you put the restraints on it, then you have a way of backtracking your way out. And I think that's more tolerable.
Restraints is the better way.
People, yeah. That's just my opinion.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Good logic.
Well, it boils back down to the power of the purse.
Yep.
Grand Canyon's on the verge of being bankrupt.
Well, and Don, here's the other thing is people don't realize, going back to Western issues, is that, the federal lands were taken in perpetuity as long as there was the best management practices to make money off of the shares of revenue.
Money. There you go. And we're not anymore.
All righty, we're back. Welcome to the second hour of Shake, Rattle, and Troll. In-house with us is our special guest, Congressman Paul Gosar, the gorilla running loose in Congress. Nice job. JK's in the house with his moderation and reason to a certain extent.
As always.
You've been doing well. And we have Dairy Queen Doug, our cyberspace master marketing strategist, in from St. George, Utah. So, we've been talking with the good congressman about a lot of stuff. Recently, he was appointed chairman of the Western Caucus Group, 54 various individuals making up the Western Caucus. For those that don't understand, what is the Western Caucus?
The Western Caucus is a group of members of Congress that typically from the West, but not necessarily, that share and understand the values that are in the Western states, whether it be public lands, environmental issues, hunting, fishing, and that we collaborate on those solutions and ideas that we're going to propose in the Congress.
Yeah, we've got some folks from North Carolina, Kansas, Louisiana, on and on.
Yeah, Jeff Duncan is one of my dear friends from South Carolina, and he's a hunting and fishing maniac. He's got property up in Montana.
If you don't hunt and fish, you don't live there. You just move on, move along.
Exactly right. So, and we're going to have more. So one of our things is trying to reach out to people, particularly in Texas, and making sure that we have all our folks in the western areas. I also reached out to a few Democrats. Kurt Schrader out of Washington. I want Kirk. There's some things we may not be able to agree on, but for Kirk, I know there's a number of things that we can agree on.
You know, I've been pretty critical about the Democratic Party, and I feel justifiably so, but there's a lot of good Democrats out there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this shouldn't be a thing that we're actually pitting one against another. What we should be doing is in joining and saying, listen, we need your eyesight. People look at me. I sit as the vice chairman of Water and Power, and I work a lot with Jared Huffman, that in California was one of the water attorneys for some of the environmental groups. We've actually collaborated on some really good legislation. Like I said, he doesn't always agree with me, but it's up to me to find those little areas that we can work on.
There's always common ground.
Absolutely, and work on it.
Except with JK. When I met him, I said, do you fish? He goes, not really. I said, well, we don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah, he's got that lifeline on that rope.
Yeah, buddy.
I might be joining him shortly.
We're getting him converted. He's got the Prius, a kayak that goes on top of the Prius. So, pedal power.
I thought the Prius went on top of the kayak.
Oh,
it
can't.
Oh dear.
Can we stop this?
Right from the hill. You have been targeted. Before we move on to the Western Caucus, we saw that you're moving from the Cannon building over to the Rayburn building.
Yeah.
Is my office going to be ready?
Yeah, it'll be ready. Well,
January 21st.
I got to tell you, Don. For those that don't know, the Cannon building's going through restoration, so we were actually pushed out. My wing that I set up on 5th floor Cannon all the way down is going to be remodeled. That way I don't have to look at the inmates on the inside. I get to look out at the Capitol outside. So we actually got into a drawing, and my scheduler, Miss Leslie, drew a great tile. She got number 10 in our, and we were able to get in Rayburn in the basement. They took committee rooms and converted them into members' offices. Now, you've been in my office up in 504 Cannon, so take 80% of that whole office space, legislative, chief of staff, front office, and part of mine, that's just ledge staff. That's how much room in there.
Wow.
I moved into my office, which is the same size as the ledge staff, and I got a whole space in the back that I can't fill. So I figured it's red carpet instead of blue carpet. So I thought I would mimic like the Boise State football field, start putting lines in the back, and it just be red.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's 2057 Rayburn. And David Schweikert's right around the corner. Jim Jordan, from the past chairman from the Freedom Caucus, is there. Rob Whitman, another big fish and wildlife hunting guy from Virginia, is right on that area. So it's a nice wing.
You're in good company then.
Oh, yeah, great company.
Well, congratulations on that. It's just.
And where exactly does Don sit?
Yeah, in the corner.
Well, we're gonna build this fishing station in that back area with the red carpet.
You need to do that. We need to come back and give fishing seminars to all the members of Congress on the floor. Crankbaits.
Don, that might be kind of pretty good, because what you could do is, how do you get your member of Congress's attention? And, rent a fishing pole.
Yep, rent a rod.
And try to hook your member of Congress.
I like it. A DD-22.
Yes.
Yeah. I ain't you trouble.
That would catch your attention really quickly.
Well, there's a secret about going to D.C. The fishing, the striper fishing, they call them rockfish back there, out on the bay, is absolutely phenomenal.
We've had an invitation a couple times. We were almost there, and then we were called into boats. So some of my friends have wanted to take me out, and I'd love to do that. So
done.
Yep.
Okay, we'll work on that. I'll make the call this afternoon. All righty, let's talk a little bit more about Western Caucus, modernizing the Endangered Species Act. I know that's one of JK's
pet peeves,
so to speak.
You're looking at roughly 2,500 animal/species that have been placed on the endangered species list, with a success rate for recovery of less than 3%.
Right.
It's a money boondoggle.
Let me educate you. According to the Western Caucus, less than 1%.
I know.
Recover.
Yeah. Basically, you're talking about 18 to 20. And one of them was the reason behind it was the bald eagle.
Mm-hmm.
That was the genesis of it 50 years ago. There were some concerns there, and legitimate. But now we're seeing things, and here's a good example. The narrow-nosed garter snake, or actually better, the Mexican narrow-nosed garter snake, thrived in Arizona when we had streams. But because of the lake impoundments that we put into it, streams have evaporated.
Right.
There just aren't. You get runoffs and you get these impoundments. Well, when you do that, you take away the habitat that they thrive in. They're doing quite well in Mexico because that hasn't been done. But in Arizona, it's listed as an endangered species, and they're going to take certain areas and make them inaccessible around riparian areas for any rancher.
Well, they don't have geoengineering in Mexico, to my knowledge. Chemtrails.
Yeah.
No, but you bring it up exactly. When you're looking at success stories, success isn't 1%, 2%, or 3%. Success stories are above 50% the last time I looked in Scientific World.
Yeah.
And that's why something's got to change. And if you're looking at it, and as a steward from either side, whether you're from the environmental community, whether you're from the fish and wildlife community, you've got to start looking at what success looks like.
All right, we'll pick that up on the backside of this break. We'll be right back. All righty, we're back talking with Congressman Gosar a little bit about the ESA. I want to draw a parallel. The political aspects of what you do impact everything that we hold near and dear. We have a situation, you mentioned the garter snake, whether American, Arizona, or Mexican, whatever it is.
Doesn't matter. It's not going in extinction.
It impacted our ability to stock Florida strain bass on
Correct.
Roosevelt.
Yes.
So some of the things that we're talking about, and we'll get into that, with the Western Caucus, you guys are talking about wilderness designations, and to date, according to your website, Congress has designated 756 wilderness areas encompassing nearly 110 million acres. And according to the Census Bureau, we have 108 million acres of developed land in the United States. It's like, what? Yeah. What we have here in Arizona now, we have failed bureaucracies, the Fish and Wildlife Service, Tonto National Forest. Tonto has this new plan, and they're hell-bent on more wilderness designations.
Absolutely.
They are. They're doing it, in my opinion. They have failed management of their financial situation. They don't manage their budgets well. They can't enforce the rules that they make. They just implemented the travel management plans, went to Arizona Game and Fish and said, look, we don't have the enforcement budget to enforce the rules. Will you do it? Game and Fish said, no, I don't think so. But yet they persist. There's a new plan out there. We're dogging pretty hard. They've been talking with outside influences. I'm going to call it on the left about more wilderness designations. How is the Western Caucus going to address some of those things?
Well, I think one of the first areas that has to do with our border security, because if you've noticed, if you've gone back and looked at our border aspects, there are a number of wilderness areas, the newest one being in New Mexico that Steve Pierce fought over. Because what ends up happening there is that jurisdiction mandates that no one gets to go in. Motorized vehicles, like from border security, none of that application comes about. They lock it up.
Well, that was one of the issues with the greater sage grouse. I took it in the teeth pretty hard. You know, Arizona had historic range. We don't have a population of sage grouse, which isn't the point. The point is there's 167 million acres about to be monumentized for the sage grouse. And exactly what you're talking about. When I say restricted, we don't go there.
That's right.
We don't go there to hike, pick flowers, gather wood, piñons, or whatever the case is. We're off the landscape.
Right. This is an agenda item, and it's just, you know, you go back to I'm going to bring something more close and central right here in Arizona. The monument designation on the Grand Canyon. This wasn't initiated by the tribes. This was by the Sierra Club, the Wilderness Society, and the Center for Biological Diversity. We actually have their writings. We actually have their cold hard facts on paper. That's the debilitation that we talk to. We have to show light on that fire. All of us, I mean, to be able to utilize the hunt, we got to conserve. I mean, we have to build populations to be able to do the things that we like doing. And that's what success looks like. So what we have to stop doing is allowing bureaucrats and these outside groups to take the created system and mismanage it under our nose. We need to bring that back, whether it be the power of the purse, whether it be the power of jurisdiction. And I think this gives us a golden opportunity with Mr. Trump to reestablish that bar, saying, okay, where does this exist? Okay, now how do we go forward? We talk about success. Here's a guy that took the old D.C. post office under budget, under time, and got it redone. It's already open. Well, that's the way government's got to start looking at it.
Government has never operated.
They've never operated that way in those consensus aspects.
No.
And you know what it also means? It means that Congress has got to go to work.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it means that you have to hold bureaucrats accountable for when they step out of line. So you actually see some of these people, like the EPA administrator, going off on her own on waters of the U.S.
Oh,
Here's
boy.
a lady that there were parts of 5 Supreme Court rulings that said you can't go there, but went in there anyway. And so what does that mean to the average day fisherman? Well, you might not have access to this river because of their jurisdiction. When they say you can go and when you can go, maybe two different things.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. We talked about wilderness. And what we're seeing, and Don touched on it, when you don't have the ability to monitor that land that you have, they're deciding that by exclusionary process, since they can't manage it and they can't enforce any laws, they're managing it by exclusionary process, which protects it to a degree, but it also destroys a whole lot of things for us in terms of use. And consequently, I blame, honestly, there's a segment of our population in the hunting community that needs to suffer some blame. They're the OHV community. Yep. OHV has created thousands of miles in Arizona. You could drive from Arizona to Washington, D.C. and back on the mileage, the new roads that have been created by OHVs since 1995. That's a problem. That's an us problem. The you problem, though, is they're saying, okay, we can't enforce anything, so we're not going to let you come in here anyhow. That's the only way we'll ever have any land. There's a balance in there somewhere. And the OHV community, which makes boatloads of money by selling those things, needs to come to the table. Exactly. They've been reluctant to in the past. Now we have to.
Well, and look at the aspect over here in the Sonoran proposal.
Yes.
They had that peace trail that they have worked diligently to try to do, and all of a sudden it goes away, or potentially can go away in a signature on a piece of paper. So the times now is that we can reach compromise, and we can do it in a diligent fashion where we're held accountable. And what a better time to do it than now? But you're exactly right. But there's other things that also go in with this.
Yes.
I mean, here in this state, we have trouble funding our public education system. Well, I wonder why. When we were promised 50% of the revenues coming off of these public lands, when that is now minuscule, okay, we have to drive it from somewhere else. A tax base where Western states, where payment in lieu of taxes, we don't get tax revenues from those lands held in public stewardship. So we're supposed to be getting a compensation called payment in lieu of taxes called PILT.
Serious.
And so about secure rural schools. Here's these Easterners that when it's brought up every year, they're like, hey, this is Western states welfare. Okay. Well, you made a promise contractually.
Yeah. 100 years ago, you made that.
The Constitution looks at public education and that funding. Well, that's our part of our problem is that, it's kind of like, you're the turtle, oh marvelous me. Remember the bottom turtle kept yakking? I'm hurting. I'm getting tired. You got to let me go. Well, that's what Western states are saying over and over again. Eastern states say we want to come out at our pleasure and use these public lands, then pay your fair share.
Yeah, I agree.
So from that standpoint, when you're well managed, when you're utilizing it, whether it be for hiking and hunting and thinning the forest and mining, those aren't bad words.
No.
Those are common acknowledgments here.
It's called multi-use, like it's supposed to be.
Like it's supposed to be. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, we've been talking to the department, the Game and Fish Department. We have to pay our license fees, our tag fees, OHV tags. I know you don't like that, boat tags, all this stuff. The other side that wants us off the landscape, that likes to go look at birds, they like to go hike, and I get that. We've suggested a user fee for those guys that don't hunt because they're not paying their fair share. We're carrying the load. What we can't get across to them, if it weren't for the hunting and the fishing community, there would be no conservation.
They wouldn't have anything to look at.
They have no idea.
They don't.
So when you start looking at the power of that purse, this is another way to look at that power of the purse is that hunting and fishing folks out there, that accumulation of the society. Look how much they're putting there, and where's their voice? I mean, you guys speak up on their behalf all the time, but once again, we're still pretty quiet. I mean, we had
we're two little guys in a huge wilderness.
Well, and that's my point is you had a person that emailed the show saying, listen, I want to get back to talking about fishing and hunting instead of the Constitution and the government. Well, when you build a government that's overreaching, you don't get hunting and fishing.
No, you don't. No.
You're going to lose it.
That's exactly right.
No, we've even suggested a surcharge on Priuses and Starbucks. Okay, look it. I mean, if you're such an idiot, you're going to pay $4.95 for a cup of Starbucks.
Yeah,
another 15%. What's the matter?
Yeah.
You know?
And if I get 60 miles to the gallon and you get 12, so be it. Who's the idiot?
Uh-oh. But you bring the perfect point here is that we are conserving by utilizing.
Yes.
Because you have
utility fosters use.
Absolutely. I mean, because now you have dynamic populations that are healthier. They're, well balanced. There is a life cycle whether people want to acknowledge it or not. So we've got to get back to that. And to be honest with you, that's why I'm not afraid of the science because the science
renewable resource works.
Absolutely.
Always has.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since 1927.
And if you don't let people enjoy it and use it, it will be lost forever.
Yeah,
indeed. Well, hunting and fishing populations are in decline, and that's partially our fault. You hit on the technological aspects of it. The new generation, they're technologically oriented.
Yeah.
And it's up to us. We've seen the department spend a whole bunch of money. I don't even want to know what we're paying for. With a new website, social media, we're doing it. Doug is a party to that. We have to get the attention of the next generation because we can sit here and talk about fishing and hunting for the next generation, but if we're not talking to those folks and they're not getting it, it's a moot point.
That's one of the reasons we are doing what we're doing.
See, I think
big reason.
Absolutely, I think it's perfect. But this is your tool.
Yes, it is.
We know that.
How many games you see with fishing and hunting, and you see some of these aspects of some of those applications.
Right.
So when you see a kid that's involved in that, it gives you an instant opportunity to say, "Listen, this is a real life game. Come with me. Put this down."
Exactly.
All righty. Hey, when we come back, more with the good congressman and the master rod builder, James Guggenauer from downtown Payson, where it's just freezing up there. We'll be right back.
Morning's kinda damp.
I'm not worried about cutting the grass. Left my truck at the boat ramp and my boat is full of gas. My old boss thinks I'm sick today. He won't have me to harass. 'Cause I'm out here on the river and he can kiss my big old bass. Kiss my bass.
All righty, that means one thing. James Guggenauer is in the house from downtown Payson. James, how many layers of clothing do you have on this morning?
3 layers this morning. It's
Attaboy.
not too bad.
You gotta love Under Armour.
We got down to 28 last night.
Woo!
And, it's sunny, but there's a storm brewing to the north, so we might get that later today.
Well, I want to thank you for playing along today. We've got our favorite congressman, the gorilla loose in Congress, Paul Gosar, is in the house with us.
I've been listening online. I've got a whole series of questions. I could spend my whole time just asking him questions.
All right. Have at it, James. Sorry about this, Congressman.
That's okay.
Get it.
Hello, Congressman. Good to talk to you again.
Always a pleasure, James.
Hey, the Department of Interior's selection of Rogers and it looks like Department of Agriculture, am I pronouncing this right, Vilwalk? Was wondering what your perception is on those two selections.
Well, I know Kathy McMorris Rogers better. She was the chairman of the House Republican Conference. She was the chair. She's a Westerner. She's a self-made lady. She comes from farming stock in the Washington area. I don't know a lot about her opinions, to be honest with you, because as the chairman of the Republican Conference, she's trying to orchestrate people, trying to gravitate to bills and trying to get some cohesion. She's very oriented in videos and trying to explain positions that we're taking. But I like the pick. One of my favorites was Cynthia Lummis, from Wyoming. I'm not going to hold anything back. Here's a lady that understands public lands, understands energy, understands the equal access to justice, the environmental.
She's still pushing on that to reform.
Oh, she is.
Oh, yeah.
So are we. From that standpoint, I'll give her chance and see where she goes. But being from the West, she already comes with one leg up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were saying the same thing last week on there that we like a Western selection, and then the latest, and I don't know if this is how far along it is, but Dawn Vilwalk, they're talked about for the Secretary of Agriculture. And that's going to be good because that's where the U.S. Fish and Wildlife reports into, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And as you know, we've had our run-ins with Mr. Ash and the service. That is a part of that I think is the most egregious overruns that we'll see is coming out of the Fish and Wildlife Service. So I think it actually does. Here's the other thing that I'm going to be very interested in, and not just the individual secretaries, but the people that are nominated underneath them.
Absolutely.
I think that is the big key is that where do you make that application? Because it's not at that secretarial role, it's at those next layers. So that's what's going to be key to me. I'll tell you the other one that goes hand in hand with this one, and that people are not really talking up about. The other side is, and that's the EPA administrator. This guy has been filing the lawsuits, based upon the sovereignty of states, and impetus not following the Constitution and the power of the purse. So I think this is a good guy that when you start choreographing this with the Interior, Agriculture, and the EPA, I think you've got some magic. And then it also goes back to the Department of Justice, with Mr. Sessions. I think there's an intoxicating opportunity and environment to get back to the rule of law, and that's everything we've always wanted, James.
Right.
Any thought or rumors on filling Dan Ash's position at this point? I've heard nothing.
I've heard nothing either.
And I emailed the Trump transition team on Friday on, hey, what's up with this?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
Congressman, one more quick question before I get to the report. About 2 or 3 months ago, there was a lot of talk that the Apaches here in Arizona might back out of the Mexican gray wolf program. And I mean, there was like a frenzy of talk, and all of a sudden it just went stone cold. And now the response is that they have no comment. I wonder if you have any insight or updates on that.
Well, there's been no quietness about this administration utilizing the tribes to their benefit and trying to coerce the tribal interests. I mean, look up in North Dakota, look up here at the Grand Canyon, all the way across the board, James. They're utilizing that sovereignty application and self-determination as a process that they can actually expand jurisdiction under. So I don't think there's any quietness about this. I think what was interesting is that in the Trump administration, Carlisle Begay, given that position of Indian Affairs, I think that's kind of an interesting tidbit coming back to Arizona to a gentleman that I know pretty well here as a state legislator, originally as a Democrat, moved to the Republican side, ran for Congress, but very respected family, and I think has got a different eyesight to it. So I think there's some different things that are coming. I would not rule out any new rules, regulations associated with the tribes in which they utilize the tribes. Even until Mr. Trump's inaugurated, because all the agencies are on fast track with rules, regulations, and jurisdictions.
Right. And then one more thing, if I could. I enjoy getting the emails from the Western Caucus chairman. So congratulations on this additional appointment. I wonder if you could give the website where people can sign up for your newsletter.
Yes, I don't have that right on me, James, but if you'll go to my website at gosar.house.gov, we will have that so that you can reference directly to that.
Yeah, and for the listeners of Shake, Rattle, and Troll, this is a great newsletter. It comes out periodically, and I encourage everyone to read it. It makes a lot of sense.
It really does, because it's as you've been listening, James, it's not just about me, it's about we. And there's so many great people in this aspect, in this caucus, that have been born, bred, and live with the consequences of egregious actions, but also love the West, its openness and its wildness. That's kind of the intoxicating environment that you create. And boy, we'd love to have people jump up and then also have a way of commenting too, because it's not always our ideas, but your ideas, the listener, that actually makes dreams come true.
Yeah, perfect. So glad you represent Dream Country.
No, thanks, James. I appreciate it, and thanks for all the things that you do with your insights, your ideas, and putting your foot forward, so that it always helps out.
James, just for the record, that's Western Caucus-Loomis.house.gov.
Is it Lummis or Loomis?
Loomis. But that'll change here shortly. That's why I was being a little bit evasive, because
that'll be Gosar.
I think so,
yeah,
but
Okay, for now we'll get that out there.
It could be gorilla too.
Absolutely.
That would be a good one.
I like the term galloping.
Yeah, we wanted to do a monkey survey for a new nickname for you, and we narrowed it down to Gorilla Gosar or Galloping Gosar. Or Mad Dog Gosar, but that's already being used.
I like that. Some of my colleagues are now calling me the Hound of the House.
I like that.
Yeah. Their comment is, if I'm looking for you, just give up, because I'm not going away.
I'll tell you what, we're going to send a box of milk bones back to your office. So when that shows up, know where it came from. All right, James, have you got any news about fishing?
I do, and I'll keep it brief. And I have to give a lot of credit. This information comes from our professional bass fisherman up here at Clifford Perch.
I've heard the name.
He won a tournament on Roosevelt last weekend, and so I was talking to him this week, and I said, "What did you do?" And he said, "The fish are shallow this week, 5 to 15 feet of water, crankbaits and jerkbaits." Now the deal is, and you're going to hate when I say this, Don, Clifford was saying the water was kind of clear down there where he was fishing. And he was actually on the Tonto end of Roosevelt Lake this week, and he was fishing the Don McDowell famous chrome and purple color crankbait.
Nice.
So
there you go. Just so you'll know, I've been in contact with the lure manufacturer. We have the Whoopi Goldberg lure coming out, and we've got the Nobama Shad coming out. That's black back, yellow stripe down the side with a white belly.
That should be a red stripe.
Yeah. Anyway, back to you, James.
That's pretty good. I like that. Hey, crappie fishing is also still remaining good. You can see the armada of boats now around Windy Hill, around Schoolhouse, and down around Rock Creek. If you plan on going crappie fishing, just as you're driving into the lake, look where the boats are fishing, because it can change any day. But they're going to be fishing in 15 feet of water. They're going to be trolling very slowly for them, but lots of crappie being caught. If you see Art Chamberlain or Kurt Rambo on the water, you want to get as close to those guys as you can. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, good luck on that.
Hey, James, I have a question for you. This is Doug. I never heard of trolling for crappie.
You need to get out more.
Actually big. In the wintertime, Doug, the crappie school up into large schools. Hundreds of crappie will get into a school in the wintertime, in November, December time frame. But those schools move along the shoreline. They don't stay in one place.
They're just like we are. They get together and huddle because they're cold.
Right. And so they'll move down the shoreline, and so you want to be moving with them.
All right. Hey, we got to flip into a break. God love you, James.
Thanks,
good
James.
questions, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Check out James's fishing report on ShakeRattleAndTroll.com. I'm Don McDowell.
Special K.
And Doug from Utah.
The Hound in the House.
Hound of the House.
I like it. I like that. We'll be right back.
Well, come on all you big strong men, Uncle Sam needs your help again. He got himself in a terrible jam, way down yonder in Afghanistan. So put down your books and pick up a gun, 'cause we're gonna have a whole lot of fun. And it's 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for?
Oh my goodness.
Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. Next stop, Afghanistan.
There you go.
And
I mean,
it's 5,
you know,
6,
we're
7,
making the circle. So, all righty. Again, thank you for coming down. I know you're a busy guy. We really feel honored and blessed to have you here, and I want to congratulate you on your chairmanship to the Western Caucus. All the good things that you're doing, have done, going to do in 2017, and thank you.
Don, thanks for having me. I'm very humbled to have the time to spend with you guys. That I always say the folks back home are the ones that understand where the rubber hits the road.
Boy, I'll tell you what, the rubber is burning right now. You wait till January 21st.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're already moving. So there's nothing, no grass growing underneath our feet. And so from, my ask of you, the listeners, if you got an idea, please let us know. Who knows if you don't liberate and find a solution for a problem. And I think that we need to start listening. I think this election was all about listening. One
would get that opinion.
Yes, and it goes second nature with me because I was a dentist.
Yes, you
if
were.
you had a toothache,
I remember the good doctor coming to a meeting over at the Pierce Brewing.
Yeah. So my point is that you might have a toothache, and if I don't listen to you, I could start pulling teeth. I might get it right, but I might pull a couple extra teeth.
Well, being in Congress is kind of like pulling teeth anyway.
Well, but tell you what, I look at bureaucrats a little different way. They see that sparkle in my eye. I take my forceps, roll them in my hand, and they see a kind of little bit of drool come out of the corner of my mouth, and they're like, that guy's made comments that it shouldn't be about pulling teeth, but he's happy to pull teeth. We just don't get any anesthetic. You can get an attention real quick. So thank you so much for having me on. It's a wonderful hour, 2 hours of being able to speak with you guys, great guys. Keep involved, and I ask the help from the folks listening today. Keep at it, and away we go. Enjoy.
Good stuff. February 1st, what's your agenda?
It will be, we are moving forward. We got everything on the pathway. We've already started talking to our membership, what issues they want to be leads on. We'll have videos out. We'll be actually having them lecturing. We'll have bills already on the floor, filed. and ready to go. So we're going to amass a lot of things very quickly, and we're going to help choreograph that. Our office is going to be kind of the consent area that we're actually choreographing videos to learn, ideas, the groups that want to get involved, the legislation people are proposing, and hitting it running.
Sounds like there's a train coming.
Yeah, buddy.
It is. You know what? For the people that missed that election, the train has left the station. Get on board.
Well, not only that, but the hounds are loose.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, based on what he's just saying, and this goes back probably for my son works for Airbnb, and he is their interior. Basically what he does is he takes information that the corporation wants all their employees to know, and they're worldwide. Airbnb is worldwide.
Yeah.
He takes the information that they want to convey, and usually it's dry material. He has created YouTube videos that make it humorous and understandable for their employees worldwide to understand what he's trying to do or what the corporation is trying to do. And that's what he does. And he says it's the most fantastic tool for learning is how people have responded to it. So you're on to the right thing.
Yeah.
That's the new learning. It's not going to be – you don't want to sit down and read about how you handle a customer survey. You don't want to sit down and read about how to go through the deliverance of money. You want a short YouTube that somebody explains it to you really quickly and in a humorous fashion. They'll remember it forever.
And here's the other thing. You bring up a good point. When you succeed, you learn. But when you fail, you learn more. And so there's no failure in falling down. It's the picking yourself up that actually is the liberating part.
Amen.
Doug, have you got anything to add on behalf of what you're doing for Shake, Rattle, and Troll and the listeners?
To tell you the truth, I mean, this has been rather inspiring, to be honest with you, because I think we've all learned some things today that...
I'm inspired. I want to go vote again.
I want a YouTube on the Anti-Deficiency Act.
Well, the thing on that one's going to be, how do we make it fun to people to look? And I've got some ideas. And
show me the money.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was my point. It's all about visuals, and I've said that for years. You can write 1,500 words, but that one picture says it all, and they get it.
Yeah. Well, look at how much, a simple little video and a little song. I'm only a bill on Capitol Hill. And how many people go back to alluding to that?
Nice.
Well, we got to write something about hounds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hunting with the Hounds, that's a new video.
I think his notoriety is increasing just by what he's done, not by any
Well,
slangs.
I'll tell you what, we've got elections coming up, 2018. That's going to be pretty interesting. But, I endorsed Congressman Gosar for one reason. He stands, on his principle. He may be in Congressional District number 4, but he's a congressman for everybody in Arizona, across the board.
America.
Yeah, exactly.
That's who he's working for.
If it's good for Arizona, it's good for New Mexico, Wyoming,
absolutely,
and even Delaware.
Oh, absolutely. And
Go figure.
That's part of my deal is that it's up to me to take the ideas that we foster here and show why it's good in Delaware, why it's good in every part of Arizona,
exactly.
And have that debate. And I need your help because what ends up happening, our republic was founded on a well-educated electorate that's not just learning but also teaching.
I had the pleasure the week of our ADA youth camp to go to Prescott Valley and talk to the YCCA over there. It's a group of contractors, you know them.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was introduced, I was really humbled. One of the contractors come up and goes, "Hey, you're one of Gosar's boys, aren't you?" I go, "Yes, sir." Yes, I am.
Tell you what, I represent a great the polling was done in my district last year, and the pollsters could not believe it. The number one issue in our district is adhering to the Constitution and the rule of law. Isn't that interesting?
Seriously.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Including flag.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, the specialness of America, the specialness of the United States of America was adhering to the rule of law. And that we had equal branches of government. And we can do anything once we restore that.
Well, the week prior, we went up to the Trump rally in Preston Valley.
Impressive.
And, I've spent more hours, I want to admit to, watching, listening, and reading about Donald Trump and being a surrogate for him. And one of the things that I was stunned. I'm a native Arizonan. When I pull into Prescott, I have never seen so many guns, God, and country people in my life.
Absolutely.
It was staggering.
That was true even of that Veterans Day parade.
Yeah,
that was amazingly patriotic.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, that Yavapai County gets it.
Yeah.
And they've always come to the table with ideas, the ability to put their working shoes on and get behind stuff. And that's why you see Yavapai County is popular and as strong as it is.
Well, I guess my point would be, just as Don was mentioning, there are an amazing number of patriots in this country that want the Constitution back.
Yeah.
Not that we lost it, but it needs to be reinforced.
What was the final Trump count? 61 million?
I don't remember.
It was a whole bunch.
Yeah, it was a whole bunch.
We have spoken.
Well, just so you know, and I always play the devil's advocate, there was an equal amount on the other side, which is divisiveness.
They cheated.
No,
they didn't cheat.
They did.
But the key is to see how much changed. From the Electoral College, 306 was that number.
Yes.
To all the way down to the local elections. This country's red except for the coast.
Right.
And just two little areas of the
coast.
Yeah, the two coasts.
That's why we call it the left coast.
And left. So from that standpoint, those are great opportunities, but that's exactly what it is. It's an opportunity. Don't lose it.
It's not just an opportunity for Republicans, it's an opportunity for the Democrats.
As well.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for America.
We just need to take this and go.
Yeah, America first.
They'll come around.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good Democrats out there, but there's a whole bunch of them that drink the Kool-Aid.
Well, there were a lot of special interests on the far, 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 far left that were receiving a lot more recognition, and there was an imbalance going to the right side.
Well, and I think we had some of that on our side. But the one thing that I will say was so skewed was the media.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I think the correction factor, America, did what they intended to do without talking to the media, and the media did everything they possibly could to skew it their way. And you know what? I find it refreshing that Donald Trump has decided to say, you know what? I have their attention anyway in a tweet or an email. Why do I need to have the media corps?
Yep. He doesn't need press conferences anymore with the media.
No.
All righty. Hey, listen, we're going to get out of here. Congressman, thank you. Appreciate it. We're engaged with you. We're coming out of the shoot January 1st, shooting, moving, and adjusting fire.
Well,
we got your back.
I know, and it's about we, not me. So if you got an idea, please come forward. And thank you so very much, Don, for having an enjoyable. It just flew by.
We'll do it again. Hey, I'm Don McDowell.
Special K.
Yeah, Doug from Utah.
And Congressman Paul Gosar, the hound of the house.
I like it. Take your kids fishing, hug your bass boat, guys. We're out of here. Thanks for listening.